Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So, more 10.1 news. We've got our first batch of class changes going on in this, and there's some very interesting stuff going on throughout the class changes section. So, this is the official blue post that Wowhead has thrown up here, the very first patch 10.1 PTR notes, and we're going to look at some other stuff that happens as well. So, we're just going to skip straight to the class changes. Actually, there's going to be one small thing that I'm going to talk about before, and that is if you are a fan of the Worgen. So the Worgen are basically getting a new racial called Calm the Wolf, which you can activate to control your Worgen instincts and automatically assume human form when you leave combat. Learn when you learn two forms. So this is very similar to the setup that Drakthir have, where you can assume your visage form outside of combat, versus just being a Drakthir all the time. Long overdue. I love this for Worgen players. I know Fyrus, my little brother who has a Worgen warrior, is very, very happy about this. So anyways, now we're moving into class changes, and we're going to start with Druid, and we're going to start with balance. You guys know, Druid lover, Druid apologist, as I like to call myself. So what we're going to do is kind of go over some of these changes now. We'll hit some of these line by line, and we'll take a look at the developer notes and the feedback thread as well. But let's first go over the changes. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's go here on the official forums or condensed. All right. So for balance, in Embers of Neltharion, we're looking to address some of the pain points and unintuitive aspects of Balance's game. Let me blow this up a little bit so you guys can read it along with me. The 10.0 set armor bonus is also rotating out, and we're keeping an eye on how the spec plays without it. For this round of changes, we're targeting 3 specific aspects of Balance's gameplay. Stellar Flare and its interactions are so strong that it is best to take it in all scenarios and maintain it on a large number of targets, which is demanding to keep track of and makes Balance's ramp at the beginning of fights very long. True. Eclipse and effects that trigger on entering Eclipse are so strong that they incentivize druids to use Lunar Eclipse in all situations because it is faster to trigger. True. There are enough bonuses to Starfire splash damage that it is optimal to target an enemy next to your focus target. True. Addressing these gameplay factors will require significantly reducing the power of some of Balance's most impactful talents and bonuses. We want Balance to be enjoyable to play and powerful when played well, and in scenarios that it is well suited for, so we'll be buffing Balance elsewhere to make up for those power reductions and keeping eye on power and tuning. So, here are the big changes. Number 1, Stellar Flare. Stellar Flare's power is driven significantly by its interactions with talent like Shooting Stars, Cosmic Rapidity, and Waning Twilight. These interactions are strong enough that it's taken for all fights. Our goal is for Stellar Flare to be an optional talent that you choose if you're interested in a more dot-focused build. It should be most effective against small number of targets. So they're removing Stellar Flare's interactions with Shooting Stars, how essential it is for, and this will significantly decrease how essential it is for generating astral power in multi-target scenarios. To compensate, they're boosting astral power generation from other sources and boosting finisher damage. We like that Stellar Flare makes it possible to maintain the Waning Twilight bonus 100% of the time on effective targets. However, we'd like it to be easier for other builds to make use of Waning Twilight, so we're extending the duration of Astral Smolder's dot and creating a new choice node talent with Stellar Flare that increases their Wrath and Starfire's AP generation and crit, making it easier to trigger Astral Smolder. So we're just going to hit this top talent. Shooting Stars no longer triggered by Stellar Flare. Wrath and Starfire generate 10 astral power each. Moonfire and Sunfire generate 6 astral power each, was 2. Instead of Stellar Flare generates 10 astral power, was 8. And then Nature's Balance, the talent, generates 2 astral power every 3 seconds, was 1 every 2 seconds. So a slight adjustment in power there. And then, as you said here, Star Surge and Starfall's damage increased by 20%. Astral Smolder is now 8 seconds in duration instead of 4, and its damage is increased to 40 and 80% of spell damage versus 20-40. All right, so that's kind of what they're looking at from there. For me, I personally like this change from a playstyle perspective because I'm not a huge fan of massive spinning plate dot focus gameplay. Now you say, oh, but you played a Feral Druid. Yes, but Feral Druid has easy ways to apply those dots by pressing one button one time. Like Druid, you literally had to tab target everything. And so a fight would be over by the time you're on a tyrannical trash pack. In a lot of cases, the fight was over before you even got your ramp off. So for me, I like my favorite style of balance druid is you use your dots. You know, it's kind of what we are gonna get, where your Moonfire and Starfire kind of empower your nukes in Wrath and Starfire, and then Star Surge and Starfall, of course, as well. So the fact that they're kind of adjusting the power of Stellar Flare to push it more in that direction, I really, really like that. So that makes me very interested in trying balance again in 10.1. The 10.0 set entering Eclipse and the set armor is changing from a free finisher dealing 35% extra damage to a 5 AP discounted finisher dealing 20% extra damage. This change will make Balance's set bonus power more comparable to other classes. It's also the main change that we're making to reduce the importance of entering Eclipse as often as possible. If it is still optimal to use Lunar Eclipse in every scenario, we'll investigate further changes. Okay, that's fine. I think that they should find a way to make it so that, you know, using Solar Eclipse for single target situations and Lunar Eclipse for multi-target situations should be the goal of the spec, but we'll have to see. Starfire AoE. Several effects increase the damage Starfire deals to nearby targets during Eclipse, even pushing it above its primary target damage. To change this, we are changing Soul of the Force to instead increase Starfire's damage and astral power generation against multiple targets. Okay, we'll have to see the numbers on that. Let's go back and see if we've got this. Alright, let's finish up this blog for the rest. In addition to the above, we're making some targeted changes to underpowered or underselected talents to make them more competitive, especially the end cap talents. Okay, so let's look at the rest of the changes. I like this formatting a little bit better. So Cosmic Rapidity, which is Circle of Life and Death without the healing bonus, increases the rate at which Moonfire, Sunfire, and Stellar Flare deal damage by 20% instead of 25%, so a small nerf to the dots there, which is fine. Touch the Cosmos, the Vault of the Incarnate's 4-set bonus. We just talked about that, so we're good there. The official numbers on the Soul of the Forest change. They now increase Starfire's damage and astral power generation during Eclipse by 30% for each target hit beyond the first, up to 90%. And it was 150% bonus of Starfire's area of effect damage. Okay, I like that change, actually. Power of Goldrin, damage increased by 75%, so this is going to make it much more valuable in single target. Power of Goldrin, basically when you Star Surge, you have a chance to call like Goldrin, the Spirit Wolf, I guess, who flies out and hits your target again for astral damage, I think. It was like on a 2 procs per minute type pace, but it kind of did little damage, and right now you're only taking it because it's your only way to go get things like Wrath of Balloon. Denizen of the Dream Fairy Dragon, damage increased by 20%. I think that's a good buff. Friend of the Fae now increases arcane and nature damage by 8% instead of 4%, but they did reduce the duration from 30 to 20. I think that's fine. Balloon's Guidance now reduces the cost of Star Surge by 8 and Starfall by 10 during Incarn, which is a small buff from 5 and 8. I think this makes Incarn a really valuable pick now in all situations instead of just in AoE situations. Radiant Moonlight also increases Fury of Balloon's damage by 50% and reduces the cooldown by 20 seconds instead of 15. Okay, so that makes going down underneath Fury of Balloon a little bit more valuable. And Radiant Moonlight also increases the damage dealt by New Moon, Half Moon, and Full Moon by 25%. We'll see. I don't know if the moons are going to be able to take over Wrath of Balloon. Now let's talk about this talent, because I skipped it. So this is the new talent, their choice noting with Stellar Flare. Wild Surges, your chance to critically strike with Wrath and Starfire is increased by 15%, and they generate 2 additional power. So you're talking 12 astral power. So it kind of focuses in on your nukes versus focusing on the dot-based playstyle. Again, I'm someone that is like much prefers balance as like a nuke turret spec. So I'm very happy about these changes. I think this is going to put balance in a little bit better situation overall. And it's also going to make them a little bit easier to tune, I think, from the dev side. So overall, this definitely makes me curious about trying balance again in the 10.1 PTR. Kind of abandoned my druid as a whole just because, I mean, outside of Feral, none of the other specs are feeling really that good to me. So yeah, we're going to get back to it. Now let's talk about Feral. So Feral is getting a big change to Berserk. So before Embers of Neltharion, Berserk worked by restoring combo points after finishers and making Raid and Shred deal damage as if you were stealth. This seems simple enough and it accomplishes the goal of accelerating the rate at which you cast finishers and deal damage. But under the surface, it requires a bit of cross-referencing other talents like Pouncing Strikes to figure out what it's doing. and an advanced degree in feral science to determine the best abilities to use in different situations. True. The value of generating exactly 3 combo points with each builder can make it optimal to ignore abilities like Rake and Thrash entirely, which is unintuitive and makes the Berserk rotation pretty repetitive. True. So Berserk is now changing. For 20 seconds, you generate 1 combo point every 1.5 seconds. Finishing moves restore up to 3 combo points generated over the cap. Shred and Rake deal damage increased by 50%. And combo point generating abilities generate 1 additional combo point. So it's just a flat, you're getting 1 additional combo point. So wait, can Shred when you crit, when you gain the additional combo point? No, that does 2 instead of 3. Okay. So the finishing moves restore up to 3 combo points generated over the cap is going to be interesting. So if you overcap your CPE, it tracks it and then gives you back. So you could, in theory, generate way over, like by like 3 or 4 combo points. Ferocious Bite, be back at 4 or 5 combo points, and Ferocious Bite the next global. Interesting. The new version of Berserk aims to keep the excitement of Berserk's accelerated rotation with frequent finishing moves while fully rewarding you maintaining Rakes and Thrash bleeds and generally using the same builders you're used to in the rest of your rotation. Since the steady flow of combo points can make it easy to go over 5, using a finishing move now restores up to 3 of those excess combo points so they aren't wasted. If you have 4 combo points, cast a builder that crits and it generates 3, then cast Ferocious Bite, you'll have 2 left over afterward. Okay, that makes sense. So it doesn't, you can't go beyond 3, it sounds like, which is fine. This also allows some talents that lost a lot of power during Berserk to maintain their effectiveness, such as Blood Talent, Sudden Ambush, and Lunar Inspiration. What? I don't think this helps Blood Talents. Because you're still casting more finishers and combo points than what you have builders. And Lunar Inspiration, like Moonfire is whatever. Okay. This is a big change, and we'll be keeping an eye on tuning to retain Feral's current power and specialties. Since Shred is losing some damage in Berserk, we're increasing its damage overall to give back some of that power without changing Shred's role in your rotation. To make maintaining Thrash more worthwhile in both single and AoE rotations, we're increasing the damage of the initial hit and its bleed. Good. We're keeping an eye on Berserk's power overall so that too much of your damage isn't focused into your Berserk window. For instance, in 10.0.7, we changed Berserk Frenzy to shift some power out of your Berserk window. In Embers of Notharian, we're reducing the effect of Relentless Predator as it provided more energy than we like within Berserk specifically. Okay, that's fine. One of the things we're always looking for opportunities to give players tool to play less complicated versions of classes they love. With 3 dots to maintain, Feral can be an intimidating class. I would argue it's less intimidating than Shadow Priest, than Moonkin, than Affliction Warlock. Like, I think it's actually one of the sort of middle of the road specs to play well. The new Thrashing Claws talent causes your normal single target and multi-target attacks to also apply the bleed from Thrash, meaning you don't have to press Thrash at all. That seems really stupid. Like, I mean, it's a good single target buff where you take Thrash off your bars. But in AoE, what? Oh. And the UI gets some new combo point generation. I take that. That's cool looking. I'll admit that. Alright, so let's look at the list. Berserk has been redesigned. We talked about that. Alright, Shred damage is increased by 20% to bleeding targets, and Shred and Swipe apply the bleed damage over time effect from Thrash. This talent is a choice node with Merciless Claws. So right here. So I think one's going to be a single target and one's going to be AoE. I think that's what we're looking at. And then they did a baseline 5% Shred, 20% to Thrash, and then Relentless Predator reduces Ferocious Bite energy cost by 20%. That's this talent here instead of 40%. So, yeah. Probably kills that talent again. And then they did a bug fix for Restoration. All right, so that's the druid changes. Obviously, very much in depth because I know that class very well. We're gonna kind of speed rush some of these other ones here because I know this video is gonna be a little long again, but you know, do what you got to do. All right, we're thrilled with the reception of Devastation Evoker and the excitement players have expressed for the playstyle. And 10.1, we're making targeted adjustments to a few key talents to address a nuance of the Dragon Rage extension loop, where it can be optimal to aggressively cancel and recast Disintegrate back to back in order to maintain the effects of Feed the Flames and causality. This specific behavior is fairly unintuitive, and the below changes are intended to make fully channeling Disintegrate the more rewarding way to play. Good. Additionally, we're looking to add more options for an area of effect damage gameplay with the new talent Raging Inferno and a redesigned Imminent Destruction. So I'm not an Evoker player, so if you're an Evoker main or Evoker lover, throw in the comments what you think about these. So Feed the Flames has been redesigned. Pyre reduces the remaining cooldown of Fire Breath and Eternity Surge by 1 second or 2 seconds if it was affected by Essence Burst. Okay, so more empowered spells. Good. Causality is now, while channeling Disintegrate, Fire Breath, and Eternity Surge, cooldown 100% faster. Okay, so okay, that makes more sense. I like that. Cool. Dragon Rage duration increased to 18 seconds, up from 14. Okay. Animosity duration extension decreased to 4 seconds, was 6 seconds. So you're getting 2 more seconds out of it, actually. So 22 instead of 20 max. Okay, cool. Engulfing Blaze's cast time increased for Living Flame, reduced by 0.3 seconds instead of 0.5. Small nerf. Engulfing Blaze's damage bonus to Living Flame reduced to 25%, was 40%, so pulling some power out of Living Flame. Imminent Destruction now is Deep Breath causes your empower spells to reach maximum level in 20 to 40% less time, and they take 10 to 20% more damage from your power spells for 15 seconds. Interesting. All right, and Raging Inferno, Firestorm's radius is increased by 50%, and Pyre deals 25% increased damage to enemies within your Firestorm. So new kind of AoE priority there. Cool. If you're a Devastation Evoker or a fan of Devastation Evoker, tell me if these are good. These seem good. I think there's some good power shifts here. What it means overall for the spec and how it feels, I don't know. We'll see. All right, Hunters, develop their notes. In Embers of Neltharion, we're looking at to update some active abilities that don't feel impactful while they are active, replace some talents that didn't work out as well as we'd hoped, and adjust some numbers across a few talents. All right, so Roar of Sacrifice is now a talent in the core tree as a choice node against Hunter's Avoidance. Now, I play BM Hunter, but I will admit I'm not exactly the most... let's see, is it over here? No, is it over here? Is it a PvP talent? Okay, Roar of Sacrifice. Friendly target from critical strikes, but 20% all the damage. I'll take about... What? Why? Okay, that has no PvE use. I don't understand this. Maybe I'm wrong. Beast Mastery. Aspect of the Wild now causes Cobra Shot to hit 2 extra targets to a total of 3 targets. So right now, Aspect of the Wild virtually isn't taken, because it's basically only 2 target cleave, which is pointless. Now it makes it 3 target cleave, which could make it potential to fit in with like the kill cleave, War Orders type situation, and then you come down and grab something like Master Handler or Snakebite. I think there's potential in that in AoE, but I don't know if that's enough of a bonus to make Aspect of the Wild something you want to use. Master Handler cooldown reduction value increased to 4 seconds, so that's this talent here. Just makes Aspect of the Wild up more often. Snakebite bonus was massively buffed from 30 to 75%. And Bloody Frenzy has been redesigned. So Bloody Frenzy is... Where are you at? Right down here. So this choice node, right now it's Call of the Wild active. Barb Shot affects all of your summoned pets. So, obviously, Call of the Wild makes it so that basically your stable gets dumped. So now they get Beast Cleave and Cobra Shot apply a Serpent Sting to any target hit. Okay, so there's some interesting changes here to potentially strengthen AoE aspects for Beast Mastery. I find that pretty interesting. I think Call of the Wild definitely very underutilized versus like Dire Back and Dire Beast. So I'm really interested in seeing how that plays out. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that works. Marksmanship. Let's switch this over to MM so we can follow with the tree. Bombardment. So let's look at Bombardment, which is... Where's Bombardment? Right here. So Bombardment now gives you Arcane Shots, grants you Bombardment, causing your next multi-shot to grant Trick Shots regardless of how many targets hit. Now Kill Shot grants you Trick Shots instead of that. What? Okay, so Legacy of the Windrunners has been slightly redesigned. Now it always shoots 2 to 4 wind arrows at your target, and every 24 wind arrows generates a charge of aim shot and 30 focus. So right now it does what? 25% to coalesce 3 extra wind arrows that also shoot your target for physical damage, and modifiers to aim shot damage also increase the damage of wind arrows. Okay, so this just makes Legacy of the Windrunners a little bit more consistent. I don't mind that. Wind arrows have had their damage reduced by 66%, which makes sense because they're now much more consistent in their ability to be fired off. So when they, because you're basically always getting them now. So good. Lethal Shots, which is... Where is it at? It's probably down here. Nope, Lethal Shots over here. So Lethal Shots, Arcane and Multi-Shot have a chance to reduce the cooldown of Rapid Fire. Instead, fully channeling Rapid Fire now grants you 15% haste for 6 seconds. This is actually... Oh, in the rhythm. God, this is my favorite Azerite trait. So this Azerite trait is now coming back and competing with Surging Shots. Personally, I think I'm going to be taking In the Rhythm. I loved In the Rhythm. It was just really good. I quite enjoyed it, so I'm happy that that's back. And then Bullseye is now a 1-ranked talent that gives you the same benefits as a 2-ranked talent. So Bullseye is... Trying to look quick. That's Bullet Storm. Bullseye right here. When hitting targets below 20% health, you gained 1% increased crit. So it's 2% increased crit, stacking up to 15 times. So very, very cool. Survival, Ruthless Marauder. Let's go to the survival tree. Survival is spec that I would love to see some heavier changes to, but we'll see. Ruthless Marauder. Where is Ruthless Marauder? Is this a new talent? Oh, down here. So instead of being 3 ranks, it's now 2 ranks. But gives the full 66%. So it's just going to make Fury of the Eagle much better. And then Lunge has new added functionality. Each melee auto attack reduces the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb by 1 second. I think this makes Survival a much more valuable Wind Fury target now. So good for them. Alright, Song of Chi-Ji is moved to the class tree on a choice node to bring a piece. Still don't think anyone takes Song of Chi-Ji. Alright, Mistweaver. Developers notes Ancient Teachings is a primary piece of Mistweaver's healing kit in Dragonflight, but its previous design was unreliable. A single Rising Sun kick's targeting could sometimes determine life or death for an ally. That level of variance between results on healing out of your direct control wasn't healthy for the spec. Our goal is to land it somewhere in the middle. A single Rising Sun kick likely shouldn't save an ally on its own, but it also shouldn't condemn them either. This new design is more dynamic and capable of handling a variety of healing profiles and will offer greater reliability to their consistent healing. Monitoring the feedback. So Ancient Teachings, now after casting Essence Font or Phalanx Stomp, good. Your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick heal up to 5 injured allies within 30 yards for 150% of the damage done, split evenly amongst them. Interesting. Okay. Burst of Life no longer reduces the cooldown or effectiveness of Life Cocoon, but gets a 30% healing buff. Cool. And then Chrysalis is the old PvP talent. It is now in the choice node with Burst of Life. So it gives Mistweaver PvP a little bit of a buff. Alright, and then they are adjusting Vivify to give it more spot healing capability because Ancient Teachings is going to be more group-wide healing. So Vivify primary healing now increased by 50%. That's a huge buff. Invigorating Mist healing reduced by 12%. It's probably fine to tweak it. Calming Coalescence has been removed. Song of GG has been removed. Revival and Restoral now properly override each other in the action bar. Good. And same with the Evokes. Cool. Small little buff here. Light's Hammer and Holy Prism for Holy Paladin. That's fine. I only spec Light's Hammer. Let's see. Divine Star and Halo should now properly override each other. Good. The bonus of Prayer of Mending has been... The bounce radius of Prayer of Mending has been increased by 10 yards. Good. All right, so the shadow changes are going to be big. Shadows is the spec that's getting reworked in 10.1. Overall, I think this is probably overdue. I think the spec, while it's fine, it's not the most functional thing in the world, and it has some awkwardness into it. So I talked to Newall, my older brother, who's been playing Shadow Priest since vanilla. So he's been playing Shadow Priest off and on for like 12 or 13 years now. I'm just going to kind of hit most of his biggest thought processes. So let's talk about the button bloat. Basically, they're working this by having Mind Spike and Mind Flay are now going to basically be on a choice node with each other. So you're basically choosing which filler ability, because they both kind of are filler abilities. But it was kind of confusing as to how you would go about picking which one to use, to the point that a lot of Shadow Priests were basically picking a weak aura that told them which one to use, and they would just follow the weak aura in order to learn how to most effectively play their class. It was kind of wild. Now you're basically choosing either Mind Spike or Mind Flay as your filler ability, so it really kind of cleans up that interaction. Mind Seer is gone, so they're basically trying to make Shadow, from what it sounds like, is they're trying to make Shadow work similar to Beast Mastery Hunter, where you would basically use your single target rotation, and by basically pushing a button, in this case Psychic Link, you get to do AoE because of that. Procs, they basically talked about proc frequency. Newall said that it kind of feels like it almost swung too far the other way, but it still feels really early on in their rework. Lack of distinct builds, kind of. And then we don't talk about PvP on this channel because I'm not qualified. So the basics of what they've got are that overall, we're not going to go over all of it because it's a huge rework, and there's going to be Shadow Priests that know this stuff in and out. Public, I'm going to recommend highly that you go look out. But Newall's overall thoughts are that he's happy about the Mind Spike, Mind Flay change. He thinks that's the most important change that has been announced so far. Overall, he thinks that it's a decent first step, but it feels incomplete and not fully fleshed out yet. He thinks in single target overall it's probably going to be okay. AoE, he's kind of worried because there was a way, like what was it? I think it was Coalescing Shadows, I think was the talent he said, that basically when you were Mind Seer, it would also extend the duration of your dots. And so you would have it so that when you Shadow Crashed, which applied all your dots to 8 targets, you could extend that out to where by the time your next Shadow Crash came around, you would be like right in the pandemic window for your dots. So you'd be good to go there. With Mind Seer gone and that interaction also gone, there's no, like, you spend a lot more time reapplying dots. And so Newall proposed I proposed a second charge of Shadow Crash. Newall thinks a 20-second cooldown would be better. I think either one is probably fine. You just have to tune Shadow Crash so it's not the biggest DPS gain to back-to-back use them and waste, basically slam the 2 charges. So if you're a Shadow Priest main or love Shadow Priest, definitely look over all of this and let me know what you think. I've got Newall's thoughts, but let me know. There's just a ton going on. All right, and finally, Shaman gets a little bit of class change notes here. A few talent changes have been made in an effort to allow you to opt into a reduction of the frequency and number of keybinds that feel required to play as enhancement. We're hoping that the changes to Thorm's Invocation and Static Accumulation make your lightning spells your primary spenders and not require to also use Elemental Blast. Changing Fire Nova to deal Flame Strike damage should help the talent feel more viable when focusing on a physical damage build. Interesting. So Wind Fury weapon gets a damage increase by 50%. That's huge. Forceful Winds, now damage per stack is lowered to 20% instead of 40%, so probably a power shift there. Static Accumulation now grants Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning 20% chance to refund Maelstrom weapons spent on those abilities, so you could potentially spam back-to-back them. Thorm's Invocation now increases Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning damage by 20%. Cool. And Elemental Weapons now increases your elemental damage by 2.5% per active weapon imbue. It's 5% total. And Fire Nova now is fire and physical spell school damage, which makes it a little more viable in a physical damage build. So overall, cool. One thing that we are going to talk about as well is interrupt duration changes. So this is interesting. They put this in the PvP section, but we're going to be talking about this because they mentioned here they're game wide. We feel that this change would have a minimal impact in other content due to how creature spells are generally designed, as most kicks are spent on spells that have inherent cooldowns longer than the interrupt duration. We'll also be keeping extra consideration of these changes for seasonal dungeons. So basically they nerfed the interrupt duration across the board. So from 4 to 3, 6 to 5, 4 to 3, 4 to 3, 5 to 3 on Rogue. Big one there. 3 to 2 on Shaman, 6 to 5 on Warlock, 4 to 3 on Warrior. I don't think this is a big impact in PvP, but in PvE rather, but in PvP this is going to be a massive change. Overall, they also nerfed Elemental Lariat, basically making it so that it's like more than half in its duration. Because basically we were just going to keep Elemental Lariat the entire season. So, and then they added more profession reputation stuff, profession stuff. Let's see, let's go into UI experience. Let's see. So they updated some art and animations. Cool. Updated experience and reputation gain animations and effects. All right. Scroll bars and an art and functionality. Fine, I don't use them. Cast bar now has an option to show the cast time. Good. Minimap size can now be adjusted. Good. The looking for group eye has been added to the micro menu frame and its size can be adjusted. Good. Raid frames will now show more buffs depending on the size of the frame, up to a maximum of 7 instead of 3. Okay, that's cool. I have an add-on that adjusts that, but cool for people that don't want it. Frames should no longer drag other elements that weren't manually snapped to them. This happens to me with my boss frames a lot, so I'm happy about this. Experience and reputation bars have been renamed to the more generic status bar 1 and 2, but will still be labeled experience bar for the leveling characters. All right, and then you can /edit mode. Let's see, you can disable chat completely. Cool. Added a keybind to stop ongoing text-to-speech. Nice. And the interface raid frame section now shows you a preview of your raid frames display. Nice. And then a hover state has been added to all options so you can more easily tell which line you're looking at. Good. So the UI stuff I think is cool. I'm a big fan of the standard UI. I've been using it a lot with just a few other weak ores and things like that. So I'm always interested in seeing what they do with the UI changes. So overall, Shadow Priest, obviously the big one. If you're a Shadow Priest outside of my brother, please tell me what you think. But also let me know if you're a Druid, a Balanced Druid, Evoker, Shaman, Enhancement Shaman. Tell me what you think of these changes in the comments below. Thank you very much for joining me. Remember to like, share, subscribe. There will be chapters, of course, in all of this if you haven't been able to tell by now. So until the next video, I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're enjoying yourself. You're having fun. You keep on gaming. And I will see you all in the next video.